Belief is not a thought you carry quietly in your mind. It is a force that shows up loudly in how you live. People often say they believe in themselves, but belief that never moves the body is only an opinion. Real belief shows up in posture, preparation, and persistence. It determines whether you show up early or late, whether you study or scroll, whether you practice or procrastinate. Belief is revealed by what you do when no one is watching and no one is applauding. If your actions contradict your words, your actions are telling the truth. Life always listens to behavior before it listens to declarations. Every day, you are proving what you believe, not through affirmations, but through habits. The way you manage your time exposes your faith in your future. The way you manage your money exposes your trust in growth. The way you manage discomfort exposes your confidence in your potential. People who truly believe they are capable do not wait to feel ready. They prepare as if readiness is inevitable. They don't need constant encouragement because their behavior already confirms their expectation. Belief becomes visible when discipline continues even after motivation disappears, and excuses feel justified but are still rejected. Belief is demonstrated most clearly under pressure. Anyone can claim confidence when conditions are easy, but real belief holds steady when circumstances push back. When challenges appear, belief either strengthens behavior or excuses weaken it. Those who believe they will win adjust their strategy, not their vision. They ask better questions, seek better information, and take responsibility without drama. They do not collapse emotionally because emotions do not govern their actions. Pressure exposes belief the same way fire reveals gold. What survives stress is what was real all along. Many people confuse belief with positive thinking, but belief is closer to obedience than optimism. It is the willingness to act in alignment with a future that is not yet visible. When you believe, you don't need guarantees. You don't need applause. You don't even need certainty. You move forward because movement itself is proof. Belief does not demand evidence before action. It creates evidence through action. This is why progress favors those who act early, learn fast, and correct quickly. They behave as if success is already decided. Belief also shows up in standards. What you tolerate reveals what you believe you deserve. If you believe your time is valuable, you protect it. If you believe your work matters, you refine it. If you believe growth is possible, you stretch beyond comfort. Standards are not rules, they are reflections of identity. People with weak belief negotiate with their values. People with strong belief enforce boundaries without hostility. They do not explain themselves to everyone because belief gives them internal permission before external approval arrives. Your belief is also visible in how you respond to feedback. Those who doubt themselves hear correction as criticism. Those who believe hear it as data. They separate ego from improvement and emotion from execution. Instead of defending mistakes, they refine systems. Instead of blaming people, they adjust processes. This response is not accidental, it is behavioral evidence of belief. When you believe you are growing, you don't fear exposure. You welcome refinement because belief tells you progress is normal and temporary discomfort is part of expansion. Belief shapes consistency more than talent ever will. Talent may open doors, but belief keeps you walking through them repeatedly. Consistent action is impossible without belief because repetition without faith feels pointless. When belief is present, repetition feels purposeful. You show up again because you expect results even if they are delayed. You continue because stopping no longer makes sense. This is why belief-driven people look unstoppable from the outside. They are not stronger. They are simply more convinced, and conviction fuels endurance. Over time, behavior becomes identity, and identity reinforces belief. This cycle explains why small actions matter more than dramatic promises. Every disciplined choice is a vote for the person you believe you are becoming. Every avoided responsibility is a vote against that future. Belief grows when behavior aligns, and behavior strengthens when belief deepens. This is not theory. It is observable in every area of life where mastery exists. Those who rise do not wait to feel powerful. They behave powerfully until belief catches up. Second, expand it, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 8 paragraphs. And each paragraph must be in 100 words without heading and conclusion. When someone operates from abundance, their decisions slow down and become intentional. Scarcity rushes, abundance observes. Scarcity reacts, abundance responds. A mind rooted in lack is always trying to grab, secure, and protect, often making choices driven by fear of missing out. An abundant mindset does not panic at uncertainty because it expects opportunity to appear with patience. This shift changes everything. Decisions are no longer emotional guesses, but thoughtful selections. When you believe there's more than enough, you stop forcing outcomes and start positioning yourself wisely within them. Abundance changes how you view time. Scarcity treats time as an enemy, always running out, always slipping away. Abundance treats time as an asset to be invested carefully. People who think in scarcity rush conversations, rush partnerships, rush commitments, and later pay for those rush choices. Those who think in abundance ask better questions and wait for clarity. They understand that a delayed decision made with wisdom is better than a fast decision made with fear. Time stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like leverage. Abundance also reshapes how you handle money. Scarcity spends to feel relief. Abundance allocates to create growth. When you believe resources are limited, you try to squeeze enjoyment out of every dollar. When you believe resources can expand, you deploy money strategically. You invest in learning, systems, and relationships instead of temporary comfort. This mindset reduces regret because decisions are made with long-term vision. Spending becomes purposeful rather than emotional. Saving becomes intentional rather than anxious. Money stops controlling behavior and starts obeying direction. In relationships, abundance changes standards. Scarcity tolerates what drains energy just to avoid being alone. Abundance chooses alignment over attachment. When you believe there are plenty of opportunities and people ahead, you stop clinging to what no longer fits. You don't beg for attention or compromise core values for acceptance. Decisions about who gets access to your time become clearer. You listen more carefully to patterns instead of promises. Abundance allows you to walk away calmly because you trust that better connection will appear through patience. Abundance also transforms risk assessment. Scarcity avoids risk completely or takes reckless risks hoping for escape. Abundance evaluates risk intelligently. It understands that not all risks are equal and that calculated risk is necessary for progress. Decisions are not driven by desperation, but by data and discernment. Loss is not seen as destruction, but as information. This perspective allows learning without self-blame. Abundant thinkers adjust strategies instead of quitting. They understand that growth requires movement, but movement guided by clarity produces better outcomes. Under pressure, abundance provides emotional stability. Scarcity amplifies stress and narrows thinking. Abundance widens perspective and reduces panic. When challenges arise, abundant decision makers pause before responding. They recognize that pressure is temporary and does not define the outcome. This calm creates space for creativity and problem solving. Instead of asking why something is happening to them, they ask how to navigate forward. Emotional regulation becomes a strategic advantage. Clear thinking under stress often separates those who progress from those who collapse. Abundance changes how success is measured. Scarcity focuses on immediate wins to prove worth. Abundance focuses on sustainability and momentum. Decisions are evaluated based on alignment with long-term vision, not short-term validation. This prevents burnout and constant pivoting. People with abundance thinking can say no to good opportunities to protect great ones. They are not distracted by noise because they are anchored in direct tie-in. This clarity reduces comparison and envy, allowing focus to remain on execution rather than external approval. Ultimately, abundance-based decision-making builds trust with yourself. Each thoughtful choice reinforces confidence and self-respect. You begin to rely on your judgment because it is no longer driven by fear. Decisions feel cleaner, even when outcomes are uncertain. You accept responsibility without self-criticism and success without guilt. This internal trust compounds over time, making future decisions easier and stronger. When abundance governs your thinking, choices align naturally with growth, integrity, and patience, creating a life shaped by intention rather than urgency. Third, expand it and don't. Add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 8 paragraphs, and each paragraph must be in 100 words without heading and conclusion. Identity always moves ahead of evidence. Before results show up in the physical world, they appear first in how a person sees themselves. People wait for proof before changing behavior, but transformation works in the opposite direction. When identity shifts, actions follow naturally. You stop forcing discipline because discipline becomes part of who you are. Choices stop feeling heavy because they align with self-image. If you see yourself as capable, prepared, evolving, you behave accordingly. Results eventually appear, but they are consequences, not causes. Identity quietly leads while outcomes slowly catch up through repetitive ion. Most people struggle because they try to add new habits to an old identity. They want new results while holding on to familiar self-definitions. This creates internal resistance. A person who sees themselves as inconsistent will sabotage consistency even when motivated. A person who sees themselves as unworthy will reject opportunities even when available. Identity acts like an internal thermostat, regulating behavior back to familiar levels. To grow, the identity must be upgraded first. When you redefine who you are, your nervous system begins to accept higher standards as normal instead of threatening. Identity-driven action removes the need for constant motivation. Motivation is emotional and unstable, but identity is steady. When behavior is tied to who you believe you are, showing up feels natural. You don't debate whether to act. You act because it fits. This is why professionals perform consistently, while amateurs rely on inspiration. Professionals identify as disciplined, prepared, and responsible. Their actions reflect that belief even on difficult days. Identity replaces willpower. The stronger the identity, the less friction exists between intention and execution. Results lag behind identity because reality needs time to reorganize. This delay causes many people to quit prematurely. They act differently for a short period, see no immediate reward, and revert. But identity requires reinforcement before evidence appears. Each aligned action strengthens the new. Self-image even when results remain invisible. This phase is uncomfortable because growth happens in silence. You must trust the process before it proves itself. Those who persist through this gap eventually experience a shift where results accelerate. Because identity has stabilized internally, language plays a powerful role in identity formation. How you describe yourself reinforces who you believe you are. Words spoken repeatedly become instructions to the subconscious. When you speak as the person you are becoming, behavior adjusts subtly. You begin to expect more from yourself. You notice when actions fall out of alignment. This internal awareness is not harsh. It is corrective. Identity does not shame mistakes, it redirects them. The way you talk to yourself during effort shapes whether identity expands or collapses under pressure. Environment also responds to identity before results appear. People treat you differently when your behavior changes consistently. Opportunities begin to surface because your standards shift. You are trusted with more responsibility because you carry yourself differently. This feedback loop reinforces identity further. External validation is not the goal, but it becomes a byproduct. Identity alters posture, tone, and presence, all of which influence interactions. Without announcing change, your actions communicate it. The world responds to consistency more than potential. Identity-based. Growth demands patience because it resists shortcuts. You cannot skip becoming by wanting outcomes. Identity forms through repetition, not intensity. Small actions performed daily rewrite self-perception over time. Each promise kept to yourself strengthens trust. Each avoided excuse weakens old patterns. Progress may feel slow because identity changes gradually, but it compounds invisibly. When results finally appear, they often seem sudden to others, even though they were built quietly through consistent alignment. Between belief and behavior, eventually, results no longer feel surprising because they match expectations. Success feels earned, not accidental. Identity and outcomes align, creating stability instead of anxiety. You are no longer afraid of losing progress because it is rooted in who you are, not what you have. This is why identity always comes first. When identity leads, behavior follows. When behavior follows, results arrive. And when results arrive after identity has formed, they tend to stay because they are supported by consistency rather than chance. Fourth, expand it. And don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy. In 8 paragraphs. And each paragraph must be in 100 words without heading and conclusion. Value creation begins with a shift away from self-centered thinking toward problem-centered awareness. People who struggle financially often ask what they can gain, while those who grow sustainably ask what they can solve. Every meaningful reward in life is tied to usefulness. When you focus on becoming more hale, powerful, skilled, and relevant, opportunities naturally increase. Value is not about effort alone, it is about impact. You can work hard and still remain stuck if your work does not improve outcomes for others. When your attention moves outward, your growth accelerates quietly and steadily. True value is created when you understand pain points deeply. Surface level solutions rarely command respect or reward. The more clearly you understand what frustrates people, delays them, or costs them time and energy, the more valuable your contribution becomes. This requires listening more than talking and observing more than assuming. Value creators ask better questions because questions reveal gaps. When you can articulate a problem better than others, people trust you to solve it. Clarity becomes currency, and insight becomes influence without aggressive promotion. Skill development is one of the purest forms of value creation. Skills compound over time and cannot be taken away. When you commit to mastering a skill that improves results for others, compensation follows naturally. The marketplace rewards those who reduce effort, save time, or increase results. Skill building is slow at first and often uncomfortable, but it separates contributors from consumers. Each hour invested in learning multiplies future returns. The more rare and refined the skill, the greater its leverage, and leverage attracts opportunity without force. Value creation also requires responsibility. When you talk ownership of outcomes instead of blaming circumstances, you become dependable. Dependability increases trust, and trust multiplies opportunities. People pay more, listen more, and collaborate more with those who consistently deliver. Responsibility is valuable because it reduces uncertainty for others. When people know you will follow through, they relax. That relaxation is worth paying for. Value creators do not disappear when challenges arise. They adapt, adjust, and finish what they started, strengthening their reputation through reliability. Contribution grows when generosity replaces competition. Instead of guarding knowledge, value creators share insights freely. This does not reduce worth. It amplifies it. Sharing demonstrates confidence and abundance. People are drawn to those who elevate conversations rather than dominate them. Teaching what you know sharpens understanding and positions you as a resource. Contribution builds goodwill, and goodwill creates long-term reward. When people feel helped, they remember. Over time, relationships formed through contribution become doors that open without knocking. Value creation requires patience because results are rarely immediate. Many quit too early because they measure contribution by instant feedback. Real value compounds quietly. Early efforts may feel invisible, but consistency builds momentum beneath the surface. Each act of service, improvement, or solution adds to a growing foundation. Eventually, demand increase. S, because your presence solves problems. When value is genuine, it creates pull instead of push. People seek you out not because you are loud, but because you are useful. As value increases, confidence becomes calm rather than loud. You no longer need to convince or chase. Your work speaks quietly but clearly. This confidence allows better boundaries and healthier decisions. You choose where to contribute instead of accepting every request. Selective contribution preserves quality. Value creators understand that saying no protects the level of service they offer. This discernment increases respect and prevents burnout. Contribution becomes intentional rather than scattered, strengthening impact without exhaustion. Over time, contribution reshapes identity. You begin to see yourself as a source rather than a seeker. This internal shift changes how you approach challenges and opportunities. You expect to bring something meaningful to every situation. Compensation, recognition, and growth arrive as natural consequences, not goals. When contribution becomes habitual, Value creation feels normal rather than forced. Life responds to usefulness with provision, and provision follows contribution consistently and predictably. Fifth, expand it and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy in 8 paragraphs. In each paragraph must be in 100 words without heading. And conclusion. Standards are invisible rules that quietly govern outcomes. Every result in life is shaped by what occurs. On is willing to accept or reject. When standards are low, effort feels heavy and progress feels rare. When standards rise, behavior aligns automatically. You no longer debate basic disciplines because they are non-negotiable. Standards decide how you speak, what you tolerate, and how you prepare. They influence the quality of your work long before anyone evaluates it. People with high standards do not wait for pressure to perform. Their baseline expectation already demands excellence. Raising standards begins internally, not externally. It starts with deciding what kind of person you refuse to be anymore. This decision is quiet but powerful. When standards rise, excuses lose credibility. You start justifying inconsistency and start correcting it. You become less impressed by convenience and more committed to integrity. Standards act as filters, shaping daily choices. They determine whether you finish what you start and whether you show up fully or partially. Over time, these decisions compound, creating visible growth without dramatic effort. Standards influence emotional responses as much as actions. When standards are low, emotions dictate behavior. When standards are high, emotions are acknowledged but not obeyed. You still feel fear, fatigue, and doubt, but they no longer control direction. High standards create structure that supports progress during unstable moments. You don't ask how you feel before acting, you act because it aligns with who you are. Emotional discipline. Line becomes natural when standards are clear and non-negotiable. Relationships are shaped by standards more than personality. When standards are unclear, boundaries blur and resentment grows. When standards are defined, relationships become healthier. You stop overgiving and under-receiving. You choose alignment instead of approval. Standards help you recognize when to engage and when to step back. This clarity reduces conflict because expectations are clear. People may not always like your standards, but they will understand them. Respect grows when behavior is consistent, and consistency flows from well-defined standards. Work quality reflects standards long before results show. People with low standards chase shortcuts and hope outcomes improve. People with high standards refine processes and trust outcomes to follow. They check details others ignore. They prepare when no one is watching. This creates quiet confidence because effort aligns with intention. High standards reduce anxiety because you have done your part thoroughly. Even when results are delayed, there's peace in knowing the work meets your own expectations. Raising standards often feels uncomfortable at first. Growth creates friction because old habits resist replacement. This discomfort is not a sign of failure, it is evidence of change. As standards rise, familiar behaviors feel unacceptable. You begin to notice gaps between who you are and who you intend to be. This awareness is constructive, not critical. It guides adjustment rather than discouragement. Each corrected behavior reinforces the new standard, making future alignment easier and more natural. Standards also shape self-trust. When you consistently meet your own expectations, confidence grows quietly. You begin to rely on yourself because you have evidence of follow-through. This trust reduces dependence on external validation. You no longer need constant reassurance because your behavior confirms your reliability. High standards create internal stability. You feel grounded because your actions match your values. Over time, this alignment strengthens identity and reduces inner conflict. As standards elevate, outcomes begin to change without force. Opportunities align with preparation. Respect aligns with consistency. Growth aligns with discipline. Nothing feels accidental because progress is supported by structure. Standards quietly shape destiny by influencing daily behavior. They do not demand perfection, but they require intention. When standards are raised and maintained, life responds with improved results, clear direction, and a sense of earned momentum that continues to build through disciplined choice. Sixth, expand it and don't add any ending. Sentence and make it lengthy in 8 paragraphs, and each paragraph must be in 100 words without heading. And conclusion. Action is the clearest expression of confidence because it removes the need for explanation. When someone truly believes in what they are do, ing, they move without excessive talking. Confidence does not announce itself. It reveals itself through movement. Hesitation often signals internal doubt, while action signals internal alignment. Even imperfect action communicates certainty because it shows commitment. People trust those who move more than those who promise. Action creates momentum, and momentum reinforces belief. The willingness to step forward before feeling fully prepared separates those who grow from those who wait indefinitely. Confidence through action is built by doing small things consistently. Grand gestures are impressive, but consistency is convincing. When actions match intentions repeatedly, confidence becomes embodied rather than imagined. You begin to trust yourself because you have proof of follow-through. Each completed task strengthens internal certainty. Confidence stops being emotional and becomes mechanical. You act because that is what you do, not because you feel brave. Over time, this removes drama from progress. Movement replaces motivation, and discipline replaces doubt through repetition. Action also simplifies decision-making. Overthinking fades when movement begins. Action forces clarity because feedback appears only after execution. Confidence grows when you see results, even small ones. You learn faster by doing than by planning endlessly. Mistakes become information instead of threats. Each adjustment increases skill and self-assurance. Action turns uncertainty into data. The more data you collect, the calmer you become. Confidence stabilizes because it is based on experience rather than imagination. Fear loses power in the presence of action. Fear thrives in stillness and speculation. Once movement starts, fear is forced to adapt or disappear. Acting despite fear rewires perception. You realize fear does not predict failure, it often signals growth. Confidence is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to obey it. Each time you act while afraid, you weaken fear's authority. Over time, fear becomes familiar and manageable. Confidence grows because you have evidence that discomfort does not stop progress. Action communicates leadership more clearly than words. People follow those who move first. Confidence attracts attention when it is expressed through behavior. Taking initiative demonstrates belief in direction. You don't need permission when action is aligned with purpose. Leadership begins with self-direction. When you act decisively, others feel secure in your presence. They sense clarity. Confidence becomes contagious because it creates structure. Movement creates certainty for those watching, even when outcomes are not guaranteed. Action also creates identity. You become what you repeatedly do. Each action reinforces self-image. When behavior aligns with goals, confidence becomes natural. You no longer question whether you are capable because your actions answer that question daily. Identity shifts through repetition. Action changes how you see yourself. Confidence strengthens because it is supported by evidence. You trust your ability to respond to challenges because you have done it before. This trust removes anxiety and replaces it with calm execution. Inaction erodes confidence silently. Delays create doubt. Avoidance feeds insecurity. The longer you wait, the heavier action feels. Action lightens psychological weight. Even small steps restore momentum. Confidence rebuilds quickly once movement resumes. Progress does not require perfect conditions, only willingness. Acting imperfectly is more powerful than waiting ideally. Confidence responds to effort, not outcomes. The act of showing up is often enough to shift internal state and restore belief. Over time, action becomes automatic. Confidence no longer feels like effort because behavior is aligned. You move without resistance because movement is familiar. Decisions feel easier because action has trained responsiveness. Life responds to consistency with opportunity. Confidence deepens because it is grounded in habit. When action becomes the default response, growth becomes inevitable. You stop questioning your ability and start trusting your process. Action proves confidence every day through consistent, intentional movement.